Good officially afternoon, everybody. For those of you who were able to join us earlier today for the Mike Curato recorded presentation, which tugged at my heartstrings, and those of you who were able to see some of our first sessions today, welcome back. We're happy to have you. My name is Kim. I am the Children and Young Adult Consultant with the Connecticut State Library. I just want to point out, if you need captions, those have been enabled. Feel free to use the tools at the bottom of your screen to turn those on. If they are distracting to you, feel free to turn them off. I am gonna quickly turn it right over to Chris and Jackie. Both of them are from the Stratford Library in Connecticut, where I'm from. These multiple states are gonna kill me. I heard from Jackie about some Discord programming that they were doing. She said that she'd already called Chris to do a presentation for another group earlier this month, and I essentially stole. I'd love to say I created, I knocked, and I stole, and I asked them to come with us. For those of you who have not checked out our virtual tote bag yet, we built a Discord channel for New England teen librarians. Who knows what's going to happen with Twitter? It's not looking good. We might need a new space to congregate, and teen librarians and those who work with teens in particular are often kind of left out of the mix. So I'm going to turn this over to Chris and Jackie, who are going to walk us through Discord, what it is, and how they've been using it with their teens and their community. Thank you guys for giving us some of your time today.
Thank you so much, Kim. So my name is Chris Bakioki. I work at the Stratford Library. I'm a technology specialist, but I also coordinate Stratford Library's Makerspace, which we call the UCreate space. And also part of my gig is I work very closely with Stratford Library's teen department, which is where Jackie is from. Jackie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jackie Bush. I'm one of the teen librarians here at Stratford. I've been here almost 3 years this February. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. If along the way you guys have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and then we are gonna try and address those at the very end. So just definitely throw them in the chat and we'll keep going. So welcome to How to Engage Teen Patrons Using Discord. So what I want to preface this with is that Jackie and I are not true Discord experts. We are How Stratford Library Uses Discord experts. So we are going to share some of our expertise with kind of what Discord is, what we feel are the key elements that you'll want to explore and utilize. And then we're going to talk a lot about kind of how we utilize Discord throughout the pandemic and then even after to create a community of teens. And then, of course, we are going to give you some tips on how you can do something similar with your teens, with your library, with your coworkers. And then we're going to wrap it up at the end with the pros and cons of Discord, because nothing is ever completely perfect and wonderful. So we're going to tell you what we have found, or maybe some of the things that don't work perfectly, and then the things that we love. So we will dive right in. First things first, what is Discord? So Discord is essentially a voice, video, and texting platform. It is a multifaceted communication tool that allows you to do communication in all of these methods, which is very cool because it's not just one thing here or one thing there. It has the capabilities to do all three of these things. Another thing that's really useful about Discord is that it offers both a desktop and a mobile version. So you can use Discord on your laptop, or you can use it on your iPad or your smartphone. Whatever is easiest for you, you have access to Discord at all times. Now, one thing to know is that there are free and paid versions of Discord. Today, we are primarily going to be talking about the free version, but just so that you are aware, there is a paid version called Nitro. There's a Nitro Basic and then a True Nitro subscription, and these subscriptions basically offer you more customizability, some added features, some added perks. One of the versions is $2.99 a month. The other version is $9.99 a month, but what we are going to tell you is that you can do tons of amazing things with Discord using just the free version, so you don't necessarily need the perks. And then one more thing to note about Discord is that it is widely used in the gaming community. So if there are any gamers in the group here, I myself am a gamer. I know Jackie games as well. So if there are any gamers in the groups, chances are you have heard of Discord, might have used Discord before, but it is very popular in the gaming community. So getting started, how do you even begin with Discord? Where do you even dive in? The first step is, of course, to get the app. So you can download the app from your app store, or you can go to discord.com to access the desktop version, and you're going to create a free account using your email address. Now, the next step once you've created your account is to join what's called a server. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Discord vocabulary and jargon in a few minutes, so don't worry about that. But basically, a server is what we call the space in which conversation takes place on Discord. So you can have multiple different servers, and then within servers, there are different subsections, and we're going to talk about all of that. To join a server, you need a link, and so you would click on that link or access that link, and then depending on the nature of the server, you'll join right away, or you have to have permissions given to you, but we'll talk about that. One of the great things about a Discord server, or Discord in general, is that you can communicate within a server. You can communicate in smaller group chat settings, so as though it was the group chat outside of a server. And then you can also communicate one-on-one via the classic DM method. So you have different ways of communicating with your Discord friends or your fellow server members. So there's a lot of versatility with Discord, which is awesome. I did include a link that's a really good video called How Discord Works in 148,000 milliseconds or less. When you have a chance, give that a click and look at it later on today. It does a really good, super quick, painless overview of kind of what is Discord, how does it work, what can you do with it. So we wanted to make sure that that made it into our presentation. So what are some of the key words to know when talking about Discord? These are words you might have heard already. Some might be completely new to you. But some of the words that we talk about when referring to Discord are server, a channel, an admin, a mod, permissions, kicking or to kick, bots, roles, and commands. And so now what we're going to do is kind of run through what these different words mean. Don't worry, there is no quiz at the end of this. This is just to give you the background knowledge you need to be able to kind of navigate this new platform. So I know this is a lot of text, but we're going to run through each piece, one piece at a time. Like I said, the server is the space where the Discord interactions actually take place. It is the cyber location for all of the communication. A channel is a subsection of a server. And so a server can have one single channel where just open chat takes place, or a server, which we're going to show you, can have many, many channels. And the channels are really dedicated to themed discussion, themed interaction, themed conversation. So if you were in a gaming server, for example, you might have a channel dedicated to tips and tricks, or kind of how to get through a certain level or things like that. In our servers, we have a channel for discussing music. We have a channel for freebies. We have a channel for pop-up challenges. So different channels can be created based on the intended conversation for that channel. Within Discord, you also have what are called roles. And a role is essentially what it sounds like. It is the action that you take as a member of that server. So the most important role in a Discord server is the admin. The admin is the person who created the server, who built it, who designed it, and they have what are called all the permissions. And that means they can decide how things work, how things look, who can do what. They have all the power. Then a step below that is what is called a mod. And a mod is a member of the server that has fewer permissions than the admin, but still has more permissions than the average server member. And mods are really important because they help make sure that your server is functioning and moving and things are running smoothly. And they're able to do certain things within your server that enable all of that without you needing to be there at all times to make sure everything is working and running properly. The final role that I didn't actually put on here is just server member. And those are people that are part of your server, they interact within your server, and they don't necessarily have any powers to make any changes to the server itself, but they do have the power to communicate and interact and exchange and all of that. Permissions, I already mentioned, but permissions are basically special abilities within a server that enable you to do certain things. So you, for example, can have permission to kick or remove someone from a server. So if someone is creating trouble within your server, you can kick them if you have that permission. You might also have permission to build a new channel or permission to mute someone without kicking them. So maybe they're saying something that you need to talk to them about after the fact. You can give someone that permission where you can mute that person and then you can revisit that at a later time. Another super important term as it relates to Discord is what's called a bot. I'm sure we've all heard of bots before, but these bots are the good bots, the friendly bots. Bots in Discord are AI-driven tools that behave like a member of your server, but they're used to automate certain server actions. So they're AI that you can choose to add to your server to make certain things happen automatically. And so what I'm going to do is run through a whirlwind tour of some of the different bots and kind of what they do. Discord bots are free, which is awesome. There are some bots that you can add to your server that might come with a little bit of a price tag, but we don't use any of those because we don't need them. But just so you know, most bots are completely free and they show up in your server as any member would. They have a name, they have an ID, and they show up on your members list. Like I said, they can keep your server running smoothly. And some of the things that a bot can do is they can automatically welcome new members to your server. So if you put out an invite link to your server and then, teens, for example, start joining, instead of you being present with your Discord server open, you can have a bot in there that will say, hey, welcome to the server, and then kind of direct them to different instructions or your server rules or things like that. Bots can also moderate discussion, which means they can be programmed to keep an eye out for certain terminology or words that might be maybe inappropriate, and then they can take action to kind of take care of that. So they are really useful with moderating discussion. And then there's some really fun bots. There are bots that you can add to your server that can enable gameplay or actually even play music. So the bot list is endless and always growing, but some of the most popular ones are Me6, and that's the one that welcomes new members. There is Avray, which is a dice roller bot. So if you decide to set up a Dungeons and Dragons Discord channel, you can apply Avray to your Discord channel or your Discord server, and Avray is really useful in dice rolling. So if you're doing some virtual D&D, Avray is really useful. And then there's also Groovy and Octave, which play music. So there's actually a way to initiate commands within a Discord server where they can automatically link in YouTube videos or Spotify playlists, and you can have music as part of your Discord server, which is really cool. These are just a small sampling of the many bots that are out there, but we just wanted to make sure that you knew that they do exist and they are a way to kind of help regulate your server, but also add some cool features without having to pay for anything. The procedure for actually adding a bot to your server is not hard, but a little complex by going step by step. So I did include a link that is a good article that shows how to actually add a bot to your server. So if that's something you're interested in, please check that out after the fact, and it should walk you pretty effectively. So now that I've given you a brief tour of some of the features and the terminology of a Discord server, I'm going to pass it over to Jackie, and Jackie is going to give a little bit of history about how Discord really took hold at our library in relation to the pandemic.
Okay, so just give me 1 minute here. Sorry. Okay. So yes, so how it all began at Stratford Library. So we need to first flash back to the spring of 2020, which everybody knows what that means, COVID. So the pandemic was revving up, and like a lot of libraries, Stratford Library closed to the public. So the teen department staff began trying to figure out how to engage teens while we were all in quarantine. And I would like to point out that I had just been hired at the library, so I had only been working there for about a month when all this happened. So like a lot of people, Discord was kind of new to me and I didn't really understand it. But once I jumped right in, it really was a great tool for me to meet some of the teens online if I couldn't meet them in person. So the Stratford Library Teens Discord server was born in the spring of 2020. It consisted of a few channels, 4 staff members, and just a few teens. And Chris, okay, thank you. So fast forward to now, our server is 118 members strong, and it continues to grow each week. And it has 19 unique channels. And we're actually, as Chris knows, in the middle of our 6th grade visits right now at Stratford, and we've been telling them about the teen Discord server. So there's really been kind of a bump in interest too, which is great. So we have several monthly Discord-based teen programs. We have game chat, where the teens just talk about what games they're playing, video games. Toon Talk for teens, because a lot of our teens just like to talk about their favorite bands or what songs they're listening to. We have pop-up challenges, and more. So our server is a teens-only cyber community, a safe place where teens can be independent from their parents and little siblings, which is just like how our in-person teen programs are in the library. And they can learn about and engage in library offerings by interacting directly with staff and teen volunteers. They can meet teens from other schools and engage with new and old friends alike. And it's really come in handy. We do have a lot of homeschool students here, and so they kind of meet on Discord, and then they've been coming into the library and meeting in person, which it's been a lot of fun, and it's great to see that going on. So we have a bunch of different channels here at Stratford. We have the welcome channel, which is just what it sounds like. I believe it's a bot that runs our welcome channel. So anytime somebody new joins, they get a little message, and all the rest of the teens here are great. They, as soon as they see somebody new has joined in, they all jump in to say hi and introduce themselves. We have events happening online, which still happens. We do still have like Discord programs, but most of we're trying to move back into in-person programming here. We have a fandom channel because like a lot of teens out there, our teens are passionate about their fandoms, whether it's anime or video games, comic books, TV shows, Marvel, DC. So fandoms is the place where they can go and talk about all of that stuff. Anime and manga. We just started our anime club, so I've been kind of trying to post in that channel a little more. A lot of our teens love it, and that one kind of randomly goes up and down with participation. DIY. This came in handy during the pandemic when I know I was doing a lot of videos for our crafts. We did grab and go kits. And so we would try to make like videos using WeVideos on how to actually do some of the craft kits. So we would then post it in DIY, and some of the teens would then go back and post what they made in the DIY channel. Server rules, gotta have them. This is where we list everything, all the rules that everyone needs to follow. Dungeons and Dragons, we'll get to that in a minute. Free stuff, if we have any kind of cool freebies at the teen desk, we'll let the teens know about them there. Pop-up challenges. Pop-up challenges are kind of like almost like little social media challenges, and we post them here in Discord. Gaming, of course. Lots of gamers here at Stratford. General chat is just that channel for whatever doesn't fit into one of the other ones. Positive vibes only was, it's kind of died down a little bit, but it's exactly what it says. If somebody needs a pick-me-up or a lift, or if someone's really happy about something, they'll post it in positive vibes only. Memes, teens love memes, we love memes, that's where they go. Book chat, talk about all the latest books. We have a book buzz program where we talk about, what you're reading, what's coming out. Art share, everyone can post what art they're working on. Movie chat, and then poetry and writing, music chat, and then we have a new channel, which is just for our teen advisory board. Okay, so channel highlights. Like I said, I've kind of gone through all these already. Sorry. Welcome. Everyone starts here. They introduce themselves, name, school, what grade they're in, if they have any particular interest or hobbies. And our teen volunteers, who are amazing, they often welcome them aboard. Pop-up challenges, like I said, are kind of like social media challenges where I started doing them once a month. Now I kind of do them every other month, but it's basically, it's kind of like an icebreaker or a conversation starter. They're often seasonal. We did things for Inktober, post a Halloween inspired doodle, this or that. Would you rather do this or have that? We did a Thanksgiving edition, which was a lot of fun. Like, would you rather have apple pie or pumpkin pie? And then we have, and then yes, the teens win prizes at the end of those. Gaming, which is Chris's favorite channel and one of our most active channels, a place for gamers to chat about what they're playing, get recommendations, learn tips, and just geek out over whatever's going on in the gaming world. Book chat, again, I kind of already went over all this. Virtual location, we have a teen book buzz program. I and another librarian used to run it, but now the teens have actually taken over, so they actually run the book buzz program. So the book buzz program is actually meeting in person now, but we still talk about books all the time in our book chat channel. And positive vibes only, and again, this one is run entirely by our teen volunteers. It's a happy place where they can go to share good things from their everyday life. It's a great mental health boost. So these are just a couple of screenshots of some of our channels. We did the Halloween pop-up challenge this past October, and we kind of just wanted to get things moving again. So I posted just a really simple one where I asked them to share like a Halloween memory. So we got a lot of good conversation, and at the end, a random winner was picked and they got a prize. And the pictures over to the right are our DIY channel where for June last year, we did a rainbow pride wreath for Pride Month, and it was a grab and go kit. So one of our volunteers, I think that was Jessica, posted her completed wreath. And then below that was like a little yarn cactus grab and go that we had. So, you know, sometimes people will post things. We always encourage them to post things, especially if they do it in a grab and go kit. So we had a lot of success with some of these. Like I said, what worked, the DIY, the meme channel is always active. Free stuff, of course, whenever we post about free stuff, we get a lot of activity. The music channel and the gaming channel are always big, but we did have some that kind of didn't work. The Dungeons and Dragons channel was a good idea at the start of the pandemic, but even though there was a bot that would like roll the dice and everything, it didn't quite transfer over to the success I think that Chris had with his in-person program. And Chris, feel free to jump in because you were the one running D&D, but
yeah, I'll just say really quickly that with the D&D channel, of course, prior to the pandemic, we had a kind of a budding D&D group here at the library, which we were all super excited about. And then COVID was like, no. And so we had to figure a way to still offer D&D and keep it alive. So we created a D&D channel, and we did do some virtual D&D sessions using that bot that I mentioned with dice rolling and stuff like that. And it was okay, but it just didn't have the same allure of an in-person meeting. So so we tried it, it didn't work, but we also didn't want to get rid of it from our server because we wanted teams who are still continuing to join to at least see, oh, like they do something D&D related. That way, you know, just because it's not active, it's still a clue as to something we've done or will do again. So we don't always delete our inactive channels just because there might be a resurgence, they might have renewed interest, we might use them again, or they might just inspire someone to ask about it, and that way we can bring it back again. So yeah, but Jackie, I'm sure is going to tell a little bit more about some of our dud channels.
yes, and it's funny because we actually had somebody post recently in the D&D channel, which made us laugh because it was one of our volunteers, and she actually said, wow, nobody's posted here in 2 years. So so we thought that was kind of amusing, but it was nice to see somebody post. We had a bunch of suggestions. People wanted one of the teens wanted a poetry and writing channel, and that kind of went nowhere, unfortunately. We would always try to post stuff for April for National Poetry Month, and we would always try to encourage writing, but it pretty much died down after like a month or two, and it's been dormant all this time. We had we actually, a lot of the teens wanted a debate channel, because sometimes in the general chat, they would talk about, things that were going on in the world, politics, things going on at school. So we wanted to give them a place where they could have respectful debates. And it kind of took on a life of its own. And we had an incident where there was kind of like, I guess it was more of an argument, and people started fighting with one another. And one of our teen moderators alerted us to it. And we kind of had to shut it down for a while and remind everyone that, hey, look, this is a place for friendly debate. You're debating, you're not yelling at each other and telling somebody, hey, you're wrong and I'm right. That wasn't the point of it. So we opened it up again. I don't know if it was a couple of weeks after, and everything was okay again for a couple of weeks, and then it happened again. And it seemed to be the same couple of teens that were kind of going overboard with their debates with some of the younger teens. So we just decided to get rid of it, and we were going to reassess it at a later date. And nobody's asked about it recently, so I'm pretty sure we're just going to kind of keep it away until we feel like maybe it's time again to try it again. And we have other things like the fandom channels, movie chat, art chat, they ebb and flow. It depends on like what movies are coming out, or what's popular and what fandom right now. So all of these, they have their pluses and minuses. The teen advisory board one is also a great addition too, because it's just a better way for us to keep in contact with all these teen advisors who are a great help to us. And so that is pretty much it for all of our channels. And I do see there's questions in the chat, and I'm going to get to them as soon as Chris takes over with his next part. But so this is an example of our server rules page, the channel. We pin this at the top. So that should be the first thing that everyone sees when they go onto the server rules. We ask that everyone reads them. It's very important because, again, you want fun but a safe digital environment. Post them and pin it, and make sure you tag everyone so that they read it. And you decide what worked best for your teens. This example is what works for us. We do need to update it a little bit, but you might find that some of these things might not work for your teen patrons. And yes, we have had to cite the rules to a few teens. A couple of conversations went too far. A couple of teens posted some images that we thought weren't really appropriate. And it was more of things like, I can't even remember. I think one kid had posted an image of a gun, and we were like, no guns. We don't want to see guns ever on this. I mean, I don't even care if it's a video game gun. It's just not appropriate for here. So, but again, I think I can count on my one hand, since I've been here in almost 3 years, how many times we've had to kind of cite the rules or put a teen in timeout, if you call it timeout from the Discord server. So again, yeah, take a look. We talk about like what grade you have to be in, don't spam the chat, nothing not safe for work. We ask everyone be respectful of everyone else. Don't invite unofficial bots, and one of the most important things is we ask that they not really share the link to this Discord with other people unless they kind of give us a heads up, because again, maybe twice now we've had somebody invited their friend who decided to spam everyone, and then I think somehow an adult got in here once, I think. But again, that was twice ever in the 2.5, 3 years that I've been here. So that is server rules, and I'm going to actually open the chat while Chris takes over so I can answer some of your questions.
All right. So one thing I just want to add to what Jackie was talking about she mentioned pinning. Pinning is a tool in Discord where if as an admin or a mod, if you type out a message, you can actually pin it to the top of that particular channel. That way it's something that new members can reference right off the bat. So it's a really useful tool. We use pinning for important announcements. We use pinning for upcoming events. So it doesn't always have to be, the harsh, these are the rules. It can also be like, hey, we want you to see that this cool upcoming event is happening. So we're going to pin it and make sure that you guys all see this. So that is a really cool Discord feature that we recommend. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. In addition to the Stratford Library Team server, which Jackie did an overview of, we utilize Discord a lot here at Stratford Library. We have a private Discord server for our regular teen volunteer program. We have a private Discord server for our UCreate Makerspace teen volunteer program, which is my baby. That's the one that I run. We have a private Discord server for our newly formed teen advisory board. And this server is almost run entirely by teens. Myself and another teen services staff member, we sort of we lurk in the shadow and kind of watch to make sure everything's running smoothly, but that one is very independently run by some of our teen leaders. And then we even have a staff Discord server, which was also born at the beginning of the pandemic. And right now we use it for the occasional meme sharing, but at the time it was super useful for kind of making announcements and things like that. The reason I'm mentioning all this is because even though our Stratford Teens server is an incredible server and a great way to engage teens, if you have a teen volunteer program at your library, using Discord is also a great application and tool that can be used in conjunction with that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my server and my volunteer program, particularly because we've been using Discord for quite a while now. That is actually one of the reasons we ventured into creating a Discord server for the teens as a whole. It's because at the time, my volunteer program was using Discord nonstop for our volunteer program. And so we knew that based on how it was going with the volunteers, or I should say we had a strong feeling that based on how it was going with the volunteers, it would be a good fit for Stratford teens in general. So if you have a volunteer program or will be having a volunteer program or anything like that, this might be of interest to you. I hope it is. But Discord can be a real hub for your volunteer program. It is a free, easy way to communicate with all of your teen volunteers at once. If you work with teens, you know it is hard to round them up and get them all in one place at one time. And Discord alleviates some of that pressure. Instead of emailing or calling or texting or iMessaging or who's in a group chat and who doesn't have this and who doesn't have that or who doesn't have, access to certain things, Discord is an easy way to have all of your teen volunteers in one location. You throw out an announcement in one of your channels and boom, everyone has seen it. So it's really, really convenient. Another benefit of using Discord is that volunteers are able to communicate freely with one another on their own outside of library hours. So they are not confined by when the library is open, as if you're having a meeting and the library is closing at 8 o'clock and they have to go home at 8, discussion ends. But Discord allows it to continue whenever is convenient for them. I will tell you from personal experience that the creativity of our teens tends to peak between the 11 p.m. and midnight hour. We'll talk a little bit about how to navigate that, but the idea is that they're able to discuss whenever it works for them, and that is really cool to see that happening. I mentioned already, if it's too challenging to organize an in-person meeting, hold a virtual one. You can do a voice chat in Discord. You can do a video chat. You can do just a simple Discord conversation and count that as a meeting. And sometimes that's the best way to do it because you're not worrying about which of your teens have rides or transportation to the library, or is the weather going to affect people's ability to get there, or things like that. There's so many variables with planning a meeting, as you guys know. And just having a virtual meeting in your Discord server is one of the best ways to kind of navigate that and make that possible. One of the unique things that we sort of added throughout the pandemic is that we give our teen volunteers volunteer hours for being active in Discord server. I know that mine in particular earn remote volunteer hours or volunteer from home hours because we want to give them credit for being active in the Discord server on their own time. So just because they're not at the library doesn't mean they shouldn't be rewarded for the time they're investing in library activities and programs and things like that. So at the end of each month, I scroll through my Discord server and I take note of who was active, who contributed ideas for programs, or who made recommendations of things to purchase, or even just who shared the results from their grab and go kit and things like that. I want to make sure that they get rewarded accordingly. And so we do take that very seriously. a quick run through of some of the different channels that we have in my teen volunteer server. We have a welcome channel as well, where new volunteers kind of get introduced to one another and integrated into our group. Announcements and updates is where I live. I'm always making announcements to my teen volunteers. That's where that takes place. Meetings and recaps. We hold our virtual meetings there. We post notes from our meetings. We also have a monthly calendar that we share with our upcoming volunteer opportunities. That way teens can plan ahead. Upcoming events is a channel I use to really promote upcoming events that we might need some extra teen oomph behind. So I'll summon them to that channel and say, hey, this is coming up. What can you do to help us? Program ideas, purchase requests. Discord is great for brainstorming. It's a chance for them to, if they have an idea at 3 a.m., hopefully no one's at 3 a.m., but if they do, they can throw it in the Discord channel, and then they can chat about it later about, a program they want to do, or something we should get for our makerspace, or something like that. I do use Discord as a place to gather content for social media too. So if teens take pictures at events that we do, or if they find something, a good article or something like that, they can post it in the content for social media channel, and I will grab that and share that with the library's social media team, and we use it. So there's many different ways within a Discord server that you can create channels to make your teens, to best capitalize on their creativity and the ideas that they have and the willingness they have to share with you. So this is how our server is currently laid out. It's always changing, just like our regular teen server is, but this is where we're at right now. And then the very last bullet point on this page, that is my personal most important bullet point, is that within the Discord server, the teens get to know each other and become friends with one another. It's very easy sometimes for teams to just be ships that pass in the night, and they might be volunteering, and maybe their volunteer shifts don't really overlap and they don't necessarily communicate. This server links them all together and turns them into a true team of people that work together and like each other and have fun with each other, and that totally changes the nature of our volunteer programs here at Stratford Library. I can attest to that. It's been one of the best ways to kind of build camaraderie and friendships and things like that. One thing I do want to add going off of that is you'll see that I have a UCreate alumni channel. That is because as my teens age out of our volunteer program, I don't believe in kicking them out. I want them to know that they always have a place here at the library, even a place within our server. So many of my past volunteers who have aged out of the teen volunteer program still belong to our server, and they just hang out in the UCreate alumni channel, and they chat with one another, and they hang out and they share what they're doing in what they're learning in college and stuff like that. And it's just so cool to know that, past generations of volunteers still want to be part of the programs as a result of a platform like this, which is really cool. So here's a group picture of some of our favorite teens here at Stratford Library. They actually helped us this past summer at our 125th anniversary birthday bash. But the whole point of Discord is that it facilitates connections between the teens, but also with the library itself. It strengthens relationships, it builds bonds, and it opens communication. They're able to connect with one another, they're able to connect with us, and that is, at the end of the day, what is most important to us. So, how you can use Discord with your teens. I'm gonna punt it back over to Jackie. That way she can run through some of our recommendations of how to get started with creating a server, diving in, and then I will wrap up with some pros and cons.
Okay, and Chris, I don't know if you can look at the chat. I know there are a couple of questions I didn't get to answer yet. So how you can use Discord with your teens. Step 1, create a server and begin exploring. This is your chance to start creating channels, or if you want to join other Discord servers so you kind of know the ropes, that's a great first step. Step 2, invite a staff member on board and grant them admin privileges, so it doesn't all fall on you. So I kind of touched on this in the chat a little bit. All of us in the teen department here have admin privileges. So it's me and Chris, Beth, our supervisor, Teresa, another one of our teen librarians, and then we actually have a member of our admin team who's kind of really in the background, just to make sure that you know, the admin knows what's going on at all times. This way, it's not just on you. And I know it's hard because sometimes a lot of teen departments are a department of one, but maybe you can kind of ask somebody in the adult department who might have an interest, or even the children's department. So it all kind of depends on what kind of library you work for. Step 3, if you have teen volunteers at your library, have them be the first to join. This is a great way to get the ball rolling. Grant your most trusted teen volunteers some permissions as moderators so that they can traverse the server and put out any potential fires in your absence. We talked about this a little bit before. Our teen mods have really come in handy. Again, very rarely have we ever really had an incident, but there were a couple, and right off the bat, the teen volunteers would message one of us and say, look, I think this conversation is kind of getting out of hand. Can you jump in? Can you do something? Sometimes it happens after work hours. I mean, it's bound to happen, especially when teens are up way later than I normally am on a day-to-day basis. But give them these small permissions, have them, moderate channels, make sure that there's, nothing safe for work is going on. If there are certain images you don't want posted, they will really, really come in handy and take some of the burden off of you. Build channels based on the interest of your teens. Do they love fandoms? Do they like anime and manga? Do they like cooking, baking, anything? You can make anything a channel that you think will draw them to the Discord server. Video games. Again, if you have artists, writers, it all has to go according to what your teens like. Not everyone's teens are going to be the same as our teens here at Stratford. So, feel free to ask them for suggestions. Promote your server. This is one of the biggest things. Mention it if you have a library newsletter, if you have event flyers, social media, if you have Instagram, TikTok, anything like that, any in-house signage. We have monthly program flyers here, and we always have a little something on there about like, hey, if you're not in our Discord, why don't you come join? We're doing our 6th grade visits. We've been talking about the Discord server a lot, and all the 6th graders know what Discord is, and they were all very, very excited when they heard that we have one just for teens here. But do not share your invite link publicly. This is a big no-no. Instead, have teens request a one-time use invite links just from you. So again, we have been encouraging the teens to come to the teen department and get the invite link, or email us directly. And this isn't the parents emailing us, it's the teens emailing us, because again, we kind of want this to be just for the teens. We want to keep the adults out of there. And, and I know that this is, again, a delicate balance, but encourage them if they're actually in the teen department, and if they have their phone or whatever, then you can send the link to them right there. Be active daily or as frequently as possible. I mentioned in the chat that all of us here are kind of on Discord almost all the time in the background. I usually open it when I get to work and I leave it on. That doesn't mean you're constantly going to be flipping back and forth to different channels. Again, it's, sometimes it's going to be quiet. Sometimes it might be a little chattier, but if you're sitting on the desk, if you have a desk shift, it's a good time to leave it open. And you don't want all the stuff to go dormant. It's one thing, like we had our D&D channel go dormant, but if you want to keep it active, then you should make an effort to post every now and then. I usually try to post something every day in one of the channels, even if it's just, hey, what are you guys reading in the Book Buzz channel? Even if it's reading for school, try to open up a conversation. If we have certain events going on or coming up, we'll make sure that we post them, even if it's in our general chat, like, hey, did you know we have ornament decorating coming up? And, we have this going on or that. So yeah, you really, really need to be active. It takes a little bit of work, but once you have a lot of teens, they'll kind of do all of that for you so that you're not constantly posting all the time. Okay. Chris, can you flip the slide? Okay, is this me or is this you?
You want to split it?
Sure, I'll do the pros, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so pros of having the Discord server. It's free. It's free. It's free. We love free things, right? I mean, how many of us have budget problems? So it's free and it's very easy to use. I had never used it before, and after about a week, I was, posting and I got the hand of it and a handle on it. So it really got us through the pandemic. I mean, it was especially for me, never really getting a chance to meet our teens. I at least got to talk with them and find out what they like and what they read, and it made it all the more sweeter when we finally opened up and I saw these teens come in here and I was like, hey, you're so and so from the Discord server. So yes, it allows us to maintain connections with our teens while also establishing new ones. You can create a server that's both fun and a safe digital space and cultivate community. Creative freedom. Make your server what works best for you, your teams, and your library. There are no rules. You can experiment and take chances. If you notice a certain channel just isn't working, it's a total dud. Okay, it's fine. So create a new one. Don't worry about it. Like I said, we've had plenty of our channels go dormant or not really work well at all. So we just took them down. Teens establish strong connections with one another and the staff, which might not have been established without the foundation of this server. And Discord offers a direct means of promoting events and services to teens, but more importantly, you can get feedback in real time. So some of our crafting things, our grab and go kits that we put together, some of the teens were really honest and they would post pictures and say stuff like, yeah, this just didn't work, or this was too hard. Or on the flip side, if they loved some of the programs, if they really enjoyed it, they'd say, that was a lot of fun. When can we do it again? And so they will chatter about stuff like that. So those are just some of the pros, and Chris is going to tell you about the cons.
All right. So in our opinion, the pros far, far, far outweigh the cons. But there are some challenges to be aware of, whether you are an expert Discord user or if you are new to the arena of Discord. One of the things that we still, are trying to figure out how to navigate is just because your workday ends doesn't mean the server shuts off for the day. If anything, the server tends to come alive in the non-typical library hours. And so it's very hard to sometimes decide, oh, do I want to dive into that conversation because, I'm home for the day. I'm off this weekend. And that's a personal preference. It is something that we are all still trying to figure out. I know myself, I made a promise that, okay, I'm going to try and limit my out of library Discord use, but sometimes you see a conversation and you can't help but dive in, and not even necessarily like, one that needs you. It could just be they're talking about a video game and, I want to jump in and share that I'm playing that game as we speak or something like that. So it's up to you to kind of learn to navigate that work-life balance. Another thing that can be tricky, of course, is tone. Jackie mentioned the very few incidents that we had in our server, and it really came down to written tone is hard to decipher and hard to understand sometimes, in general, but especially with teens, because you don't always know their personalities or their mood or what they're intending. And so we're lucky that we know, most of our teams that are in our server, we have relationships with them and we do know them. So we do know kind of their humor or things like that, but not everyone does. Not everyone knows everyone. And so it's hard to sometimes navigate what tone is coming off. And for precaution, sometimes we've had to talk to someone and say, hey, just be careful with the way you're wording things, or, what you're saying might be interpreted a certain way. I can tell you that no one in our server has ever been malicious per se. It's just been misunderstandings that then gets teams revved up, especially in that debate channel, which we had to kind of do away with, just because we of all the channels, that was one that we felt like that's something we need to have in person, because it's one of those things that people's tone makes all the difference, and you want to make sure that you're navigating that appropriately. Running a server is work. It sounds great to whip up your server, put it out there, get teams to join, and then sort of just be like, okay, it's done. But once you created a server, that's really when your work actually begins. One of the things that Jackie and I mentioned is that being active as frequently as possible is the key to keeping your server not just alive, but growing and expanding and moving forward. So you want to make sure that you have the time and the energy to do that. Because it does require work, and it's something that you should want to do. You should want to jump in there and create a new channel, or share a meme or share a link or something like that. It's going to take time and effort, but what we felt here at Stratford is that it's more than worth the time and effort that goes into it. We've had so many teams that have found a place in our Discord server, that have found a place at the library post-pandemic, or wherever we are in the pandemic now. So it's all thanks to the Discord platform for being able to facilitate these relationships. And I will say too, whether it's in our team Discord server or one of our volunteer program servers, the teams take ownership of their servers. And that's something that's really cool to see, because they have found a new place where the library is part of their life and they're part of the library, and they get excited to be able to be part of that, and help shape it and help contribute to it. So yes, there are some cons, but as we said, we feel the pros far outweigh the cons. Our last slide here is, of course, we're going to open it up to questions, but I just want to show you on the left that I did give a shout out last night to some of the teams saying, hey, Jackie and I are going to be here today talking to a bunch of awesome peeps from not just Connecticut, but all around New England. And a bunch of them did drop a hello. I think they just wanted the screen time, but it's still very cool to see. Also, by the way, you can see how quickly they respond. Sorry, I posted that message and right away I had people responding saying, hello, hello, hello. So they are there. The real-time thing is real. So, so thank you, everybody. And now we are happy to take questions. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's so cute. Please tell them we all say hello back.
I definitely will.
I know Jackie was getting a lot of questions, answering a lot of them in the chat. So I'm not sure what's left, or honestly, Christy, let me know if this is okay. Sometimes questions, I think particularly with new platforms, typing words is hard. Like typing the words is hard. So if someone feels like they have something that they need to verbalize, maybe use the raise hand function and we can call on you. Someone sent me a direct message. Do you think this is possible for a solo library or librarian? I'll let you two add, but as someone who works in a state where we constantly talk about resource sharing, and Connecticut, I don't know if any other states had this, and I don't know if you, Chris and Jackie, know this. There used to be a Fairfield County Minecraft server back when that was a huge thing. An entire region of Connecticut came together and built a server and sort of gave the individual towns in that region their own little like door portal bits. So no one person had to do all of the heavy lifting. What do y'all think about that question?
I would say go for it. I would say the one thing to know is that much like all of the things we do with teens, don't be afraid to experiment. I would say try it. And, if the workload is too much, or if the server doesn't take off, that's okay. I think it's worth the try. And, just because it's not working right now doesn't mean it might not work down the road. I am all for trying it. The server could also, it's going to look different for every library, every library's team, every community, every group of teens. It's always going to be different. Jackie and I were really adamant about making sure that we didn't try and produce a one-size-fits-all model, because we know that every community and every library system, every library is so different. So I would say go for it, try it, and then if it doesn't work, revisit it at another time. It also doesn't hurt to learn the ins and outs of Discord, because chances are you're going to encounter it somewhere else as well. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, things keep coming. Cool. Okay, that person sent me a message and said thank you.
Cool.
Lots of things about the 13-year-old thing. I don't know, man. They're like 9-year-olds. My friend's 6-year-old has her own cell phone, and like 9-year-olds are on Instagram. I don't know. I think again, those are person by person things.
And I'll
Did you have
just
something
add
to add?
I was going to say, most of the youngins that are coming to us, they already have Discord servers.
That's what I said too.
So a parent somewhere along the line has okayed that.
Yeah, I also say we can't parent everyone. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to sound rude, but you know, a lot of the times, you know, there are teens who aren't allowed to join, and you know, that's fine, but you know, we have it out there, and we, you know, again, I think that a lot of our teens already had Discord, so I know it's supposed to be 13 and over, but again, you have to decide what's right for your teens or sixth, seventh graders, you know, and what works best for you. And I'm sorry, I'm just looking in the chat, and Lori had a question about keeping track of attendance to events and passive programs. How do you keep track of attendance on Discord, and do you? Yes, we do. We keep track, like for the pop-up challenges, I'll actually count how many teams participated, and that goes towards our monthly stats. So you know, it depends on what kind of program you're running. Same thing if it's an online event, like I think video game chat, Chris will probably, you know, kind of round up or take a tally of how many teams were there, you know, for that program. But you can definitely keep track like that, especially if you need to do it for like your monthly stats or your state stats.
Most definitely. Just to add to that, whenever I do a virtual meeting, I treat that like a regular meeting. So if 15 teens participated in my virtual meeting, then that's 15 teens that came to, you know, a program or an activity. So definitely the stats definitely are important to us because we're putting in the time and effort and we're engaging the teens. And to us, it's no different from an on-site activity.
Awesome. I also just wanted to really quickly, someone asked a question about what data is collected from Discord. Here's a link pulled straight from the Discord folks themselves on what type of data is collected. I think probably the same stuff that Google has about all of us, quite frankly, but feel free to go through that on your own. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you, Kim. Good.
Yeah, I see Jennifer had a question about non-meeting times. Are you talking about like after hours when teens are chatting, or if we jump on after hours? I'm not quite sure.
So the stats of just teens participating in general. So if it's not for like a virtual program, they're just going into the different chats and participating with each other. How do you go about counting those?
I think, Chris, there is a spot on our monthly report, right, where we talk about 50 teens were engaged on the Discord channel, right? I'm
Yeah,
sure that's how we do it.
It's an imperfect science, but what we do say is that if it's just like one or two teens just going back and forth about something, we let them just have their conversation. But if we notice that, you know, 17 teens were talking about a video game, we dub that an extended chat in our Discord server, which we treat like a program. So even though it wasn't a planned program or something like that, we do take note that, you know, the teens are engaging and this is the number of teens roughly that participated. So like I said, if it's just a casual conversation between one or two teens, no big deal. But if we do notice that, you know, the next day we have 100 notifications because some exciting conversation took place, we do acknowledge that.
And I think I also just want to throw out, because there's a whole conversation happening about D&D right now in the teen programming channel on this server that we made and sort of launched today. I think some of this is probably hard. You hear it and you're like, what, right? Like the Gen Z, what? So feel free to sort of like look and participate in what exists to get an idea for what that might look like in your town. Now, this server is going to be the same as what Jackie and Chris are talking about. Maybe in a month, no one wants to talk to each other anymore. And we're going to be like, okay, you know, we just kind of read the reviews from past summits. Folks from different states were interested in continuing the conversation after the summit. We created a space for that. But you know, like maybe things fizzle out. Maybe someone's like, girl, we need our own D&D channel. We cannot be clustered, you know, through there, right? So I think sometimes seeing this stuff makes it a little easier to understand. Feel free to use that as a, folks are sharing emails. This is hysterical to watch. just to give you an idea, these screenshots are really great. Chris and Jackie have been kind enough to share their email. I don't know if I have the slides from y'all yet, but if you want to
I'll send it to you.
and I'll drop them straight in the tote bag, which
Perfect.
I believe Christy gave the link for. But are there any other questions? Anyone who can't type it and needs to verbalize?
Oh, Kim, can you drop your Discord link here in the chat?
I sure can.
Thanks. Yeah, and feel free to email me or Chris or with any questions or anything. related.
Anything at all.
I mean, I can't tell you again how grateful I was that Chris started this Discord server, because it really helped somebody like me who was here for 3 or 4 weeks, didn't know the teens, didn't even know how this teen department worked. And it really was a great asset. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome. And that we set that for 7 days just because we know folks are going to be coming in and out, checking out the recordings. After that, if anyone's interested, send me an email and I will send you a direct link, because we also want to keep a lookout for trolls. But I also just want to say something like, tap into your teens. Co-design can get you really, really far, I believe, with programs like this. I'm not allowed to hang out with teens anymore in a boring, I'm at the state and all I do is write reports kind of way. But I do remember what it was like with the Minecraft Fairfield County server. The world's quietest teen came in and asked if he could run like a summer session. You tap into your teens, tap into your neighboring libraries. As someone who lived very far from my public library and could never visit it, and yet somehow still wound up becoming a librarian, this would have been great. As someone whose siblings are 9 and 12 years younger than me, and talking to a 3-year-old is really not exciting once you get home. This would have been something really great to have as a teenager. So
I agree, Kim. My town didn't even have a library growing up. So I had to go to another town. So yeah, this would have been amazing when I was a teenager.
Yeah. For those who want to learn more, we do have another Discord session starting after the break at whatever time that is. I don't even know. What's
2:15.
2:15.
2:15.
With 2 librarians from the San Antonio Public Library in Texas. So if you see some folks saying they're from Texas, it's probably their fan club, to sort of go into some deeper diving on how this has worked with their teens, to also hear from a different perspective. They're not going to do so much of the description, they're not going to do so much of that. But if y'all want to continue this conversation, dive deeper, hop on over to that one. Or come to Youth Summer Career Bridging Workshops, which is another Connecticut speaker from East Hartford.